Hello, and welcome to my intro. You know, this is kind of boring compared to my Starbound's Challenge Run intro. It's a little embarrassing. Well, at least you have an animated character on the screen. That's new. Anyway, on topic, I decided to see if it's possible to beat Castlevania Aria of Sorrow with just using souls in the game. After spending a horrendous amount of time editing my last challenge run video, it was getting closer and closer to that time again to do another challenge run. And out of the two options I laid out for my Starbound video, I chose Castlevania. Why? Well, I'm just a sucker for side-scrollers, considering that my last challenge run was Starbound, which is in fact a side-scroller. Besides, I also grew up playing Castlevania, so I figured that I was just like, okay, I kind of want to just do this one. However, that doesn't mean that I will not do something for the Metro games at some point. Maybe at some point, I don't know when. Besides, it's October. I feel like it's just appropriate to just drop a Castlevania video just right here and right now, out of all times. So let's get into the nitty gritty of what are the rules for this run. Rule number 1 is I cannot fight using any weapons or anything physical. No swords, guns, fists, the kicker skeleton ability, sliding, etc. Only bullet, enchanted, and guardian souls are allowed. Rule number 2, I can use items and armor. If I find any weapons, I will sell them since I can't use them. Rule number 3, I can only use my fists to hit candles to get hearts and money. Also, secret walls is going to be counted towards this as well. And rule number 4, if I accidentally hit an enemy using physical attacks, I will reload my last save. Along with these rules, I will be playing on hard difficulty for this run. Also, for those who are wondering on how I am playing this game, I am not using an emulator. I'm using the Castlevania Advanced Collection on Steam to play Aria of Sorrow. And yes, I know there is save states in the Advanced Collection, but I will not be using them. The only saves I'll be using is in-game. I feel like I should say this because I know how some people feel about emulation, but don't worry, I bought the game, I can promise you that. With all of that laid out, let's storm this castle and see how this run turns out. So, to start out, I chose one of my vacant save slots and gave it the name Wise. I then select the save slot to begin the game, and thankfully my game didn't crash like how it did in my Starbound run. I make my character, and my game crashed. We are given a synopsis of what the story is in this game. I'm gonna just kind of sum up what's going on this screen right here because 1, this game is 21 years old, and 2, if you haven't played this game, then what the hell are you doing? Go and play this game, it's amazing. Anyway, the year is 2035. Ooh, a Castlevania game in the future, that's pretty neat. And there's a solar eclipse happening in Japan. Wait, is there really a solar eclipse happening in Japan during that year? Oh, huh. I guess you learn something new every day. I'm glad the devs of this game did their homework. Let's just hope that people don't make "why do my eyes hurt" after looking at the eclipse a common search trend on Google like they did during this year in 2024. Also, the fact that the game says this is the first full solar eclipse of the 21st century is actually pretty false. I guess the devs get half credit for doing their homework. The protagonist is a man named Soma Cruz, a high school exchange student. Fun fact, in the Japanese version of this game, it just says he's just a high school student, or aka a Japanese student. I just wanted to throw that in there because every time I see things from media that's either from the 90s or the early 2000s, it always reminds me of that Pokemon episode with the donuts.
These donuts are great! Jelly-filled are my favorite!
We are visiting the Hakuba Shrine, along with our best friend Mina Hakuba, and as we make our way to the top of the shrine, we see a floating castle up in the sky, and the screen just fades to black. Next, we both wake up at the front entrance of the castle with a man named Genya Arikado. I will go off on a tangent why I hate this name later, but that's for later. But he then informs us that we are in Dracula's castle and we're inside the eclipse. Soma thinks that Genya is insane and we're being attacked by some enemies later on. Genya casts some spell to get rid of all the enemies but one that's right in front of us, and Soma takes a swing with a pocket knife, and bam, we got our first soul in the game. I do want to note here that Soma did indeed swing a knife at this part of the game, but I'm not going to count it because this is a cutscene. I have no control over him during this time. After getting our soul, Genya is telling us that we have the power to absorb souls from our enemies and we can use them for our own use. He then tells us that we have to go to the Master's Chambers, but Soma, however, is concerned about Mina, but Genya tells us that he'll put a protective barrier around her. And then after some chatting, I go into the pause menu and I immediately unequip the knife, get that out of here for my primary attack, and we run into the castle corridor. There's nothing but zombies, bats, and mermen for the most part in this area, and we make our way to this fountain area to grab the Gravekeeper ability soul. This will allow me to make quick dodge moves backwards. It's pretty handy. After grabbing it, I go into the save room and save, and on my way out I get a merman soul just by luck, and carefully and patiently navigate to the first boss of this run, the Creaking Skull. This is the most simple boss in the game, but you also need to understand I'm also at level 1 with just 2 souls that I can use against it. So this boss just swings this like big bone around and shoots a fireball at you, and that's really it. That's all that he can do. What I did was just sit near the door and use the winged skeleton soul that we got from meeting Genya at the very beginning of the game, and we just played a very patient game of our MP bar slowly filling up while we chucked spears at the boss, only doing like 9 damage until it finally died. I leveled up almost twice actually from that boss, and we decided to press onward. I head up to this area where there's these skull archers for a bit to randomly get lucky to get one of their souls, and then I make my way down into this basement-like area with a lot of water to gain this bat soul that I randomly got as well. While doing all of this, I also gained the flying armor soul so that I could be able to jump across more jump areas more easily. However, I goofed up real time at around this time of my run, and it has nothing to do with the game but with my stream. I had both OBS and OBS Streamlabs both running while I was doing this run, and it caused the stream to lag. And it's funny because what you were just watching was the recording of my OBS version of this. And the OBS Streamlabs was just tanking really bad because of this. What I ended up having to do was I had to stop my recording on OBS, and it seemed to fix the issue. You're probably wondering why I had both OBSs like up. The reason why is because I did this with my Starbound run and everything seemed okay when I did that game, so I figured like why not do it for my Castlevania run, and everything was just not okay. So I'll put up the gameplay here in a second, but the difference is that there's it's just footage from my stream. You'll notice there's like a little chat box in the corner. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. So I then head up to this area using the flying armor soul. This was the area where I started to really switch up and use some souls that I've never even used when I normally play this game, like the Skull Archer and many others. As I'm progressing, I find an enemy called the Zombie Soldier, and I really want their soul, so I stopped and grind for their soul, only to troll myself at this bit. Oh no! Oh! I left too early. His soul was I was about to get his soul. That's pain. Oh, there we go. Throws hand grenades. Nice. After some grinding, we meet a man named Graham Jones. He tells us that he's a missionary, and he's starting to tell us about how Dracula died in 1999. He also goes on about how the vampire hunters sealed his castle in an eclipse during that year. He's also going on about how there will be somebody to inherit Dracula's powers in the current year that they're in. Then he just casually walks away from us. After talking with him, I head towards the chapel. I head towards the save room and into the next boss area, the Manticore. Funny enough, this guy's kinda similar to the Creaking Skull boss, but with more health, and he's able to do way more damage. I was level 5 when I fought this boss, and what I did was I just used the Skull Archer soul, and I jump on these platforms to avoid getting hit from him. This was again just another game of patience until he died. After killing the Manticore, I ran into a room to kill a Skull Knight to get his soul to give some passive buffs to our stats, and I head into the study area. On my way to the next boss, I end up grabbing the Fleaman soul by luck, and I run into Yoko Beneldes, who is a member of the church and tells us that she is here to help us and acquainted with Genya. Then she just tells us about how Graham Jones is a bad guy and he's trying to inherit Dracula's powers and warns us about him. After chatting with Yoko, we run into a Burr. I think that's how you say that, Burr? It looks like it's spelled like that. I just got lucky and I got their soul on the first try, and I head towards the next boss. This boss is nothing like the last two. He can swing and do a heavy slash attack with his sword, and he can guard most attacks thanks to his giant shield blocking most of his body. I was level 9 when I was in this fight, and what I did in this fight was I threw a bunch of grenades thanks to the Zombie Soldier soul, and stayed close to the door and played a game of patience with my MP bar. After slowly killing the Great Armor, I head into the next room to find Hammer, a army soldier that went AWOL on his mission that is opening up a shop in the front of the store. Yeah, I'm not joking about that. That's actually what his purpose is in this game. After talking with Hammer, we get the double jump ability soul, and as I'm making my way out of the study area, I get the Evil Butcher soul by luck, and I head into the chapel area to use one of the teleporters to go back to the front of the castle to visit Hammer in his shop. I sell all my weapons and buy a bunch of potions and head into the next area, the dance hall. Here, we meet a man named Jay, and he tells us that he doesn't remember his name and he's involved with the 1999 incident. After talking with Jay, we head down into the basement and I found the wooden golem in his soul, and it is a must-have. It is an absolute must-have. Which, surprisingly, didn't even take that long. I guess I got really lucky for his soul to drop, and I also got to get some levels off of him, which I was level 12 after getting his soul. After all that, we go into the boss room to meet the big golem. This boss doesn't really have a whole lot to him. He just throws up rocks that can hurt you, and he can do a little punch attack if you get too close to him. What I did during this fight was I just used the Skull Archer soul to snipe him from the other side of the room until he died. However, this didn't take very long because of me having the wooden golem soul. I head into the next room and we get this slide ability soul. We are able to head into the inner quarters now, and on our way to the boss room I decided to farm on some of the Durgas for their souls. The reason why I wanted to farm their souls was because boy oh boy, this next boss was going to be a challenge. I think there could have been a better soul for this next upcoming boss, but at the time the only soul that I could think about getting was just the Durgas. After grinding for the soul for what felt like forever, but we eventually get it. I don't remember if luck increases your base chances of getting souls. I'm just gonna ride on it though. Oh! Maybe it does! We head into the next boss, the Headhunter. I was level 14 during this fight, and also this boss has 3 phases. The lady, the old man, and the lizard, in that order. The lady's pretty easy, she just walks around and stabs you if you get too close to her. The old man floats around and casts spells like an electrocution spell and a fire dragon head spell that moves around the room. Lastly, the lizard crawls on the walls and sticks its tongue at you and shoots a poison cloud at you. The lady and the old man portion of this fight wasn't hard. All I did was just move around and waited for an opportunity to strike at them, to throw my katanas at them, thanks to the Durga soul. However, the lizard portion of this fight was a little bit difficult because this gross lizard moves around the room a lot, and not only that, I had to make sure that I had to precisely hit him, because depending on how the lizard is on the wall affects how big his hitbox is sometimes. I had to jumble between the Durga, the Skull Archer, and even the Fleaman soul to try to kill this reptile. After killing this boss finally, I jumped right back into grinding for 2 souls that I'm going to need. Yeah, I know, I just went from grinding into a boss fight and now back into grinding, I know. The 2 souls that I'm trying to get is the Curly soul and the Valkyrie soul. I'm not gonna lie, luck was not on my side for these 2 souls. It took me roughly 40 minutes to get these souls, but after getting these souls I got really lucky and managed to get the witch's soul as well, but in between grinding both of these souls. After some crazy grinding, I feel so much powerful in the game now, to which I would say was actually really worth it. Also, since I was grinding for like roughly 40 minutes, I did manage to go from like level 14 to like 18 during this entire time. But anyway, I head up to a room above that's near the boss room to get the Undying soul and progress back to Hammer and sell some items, restock on potions, check up on Mina, and head up to the floating garden, and the most unfortunate thing happens here. No! Ah! Oh no! I accidentally punched something. Oh great, those stupid imps. I'm gonna have to revert to a save. Yeah, the imps in this game will hover above you and control your actions, and it was super unfortunate that I was just punching non-stop and the enemy just ran into me. So I had to revert to a save and come back here again. After navigating the garden, we make into the clock tower to meet Graham Jones again, and he tells us that he was born on the day that Dracula had died, and he makes this delusional theory that he thinks that he's Dracula because of this. However, Graham senses a power within Soma, and Soma responds that he wants to rule, and he freaks out and he storms his way up to the throne room. After doing some crazy talk with Graham, we meet with Yoko literally like 2 minutes later and explain to her that we just met with Graham and he plans to take over the castle. After some reassuring talk with Yoko, we head into the boss room and meet Death. Yep, every Castlevania game has to have a fight with Death himself. So his first phase, he just has a big scythe that we just need to attack while he throws it around the room with a bunch of other smaller scythes that are roaming around. I was level 19 during this fight, and what I did during this fight was I just used the Curly Soul and run into everything until he got into a second phase. In this phase, Death will lunge at us with his big scythe and throw his scythe and throw it in a like circular pattern around the room. I'm not gonna lie, this fight was really hard because I actually ended up using all of my potions, like all of them that I bought. So far this has been the hardest boss as of up to right now. However, what I did in his second phase, I literally just did the same thing what I did in his first phase. I just used the curly soul and basically try to get hits on him while I'm getting iframes being turned into the curly to avoid his attacks. After having a very intense battle with Death himself, we go into the next room and we get the Skulla Soul. I head down to a portion of the clock tower where we were just at, like maybe 5 minutes ago, to travel underwater using the Skulla Soul back to the start, and also I got the Needle Soul while in the middle of this process. I then head down into the underground reservoir to farm on this gross giant worm for its soul. It's pretty gross, not gonna lie, but its soul is pretty helpful actually. As we head deeper into the reservoir, we get to see Yoko getting stabbed by Graham and he makes a quick escape. Genya comes out of nowhere and he says that he will attend to her injuries and he tells us that we need to go to the throne room ASAP. After getting over some aggravated assault, we head into the underground cemetery and we get ready for the next boss. The Legion. I was level 21 in this fight, and this simple but gross ball of people doesn't have a lot to it. It just moves around the room and just follows you. What I did here was I just used the curly soul to eventually get rid of its layers of its body, and now it has lasers. Great. However, I kinda goofed up here because remember that I said that I used all of my potions during the fight with Death? Well, for some reason, my idiotic self forgot to buy some more coming down here, knowing that I was going to fight this thing. One good thing that I did use to my advantage, though, was that the Legion is very, very slow. So I kept switching between the Wooden Golem Soul and the Giant Worm Soul to keep my mana and health up since I barely had any potions on me. There is something that I want to note here. When I was playing this specific playthrough of this game, I just realized that this version of the Legion has a face. I played this game more than 100 times and I never knew this until now, and it kinda creeps me out, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know why, but the face reminds me of Olmec from Legends of the Hidden Temple. I don't know, that's just me, unless I'm crazy. Anyway, I finished the boss off with the Valkyrie Soul and I get its soul afterwards. Once dealing with the Ball of Dead people, I went to the arena and got absolutely handled less than 5 minutes. There's so much going on right now. The arena doesn't mess around. Oh god, I'm gonna die if I don't do anything. Oh, well, okay. I try again and make it to the save room and start grinding on the killer mantle for its soul. I save the game and I head into one of these rooms that are full of BS and then died again. Okay, I am getting destroyed here. Alright, I'm gonna have to write that down. After reloading my save, I decided to go back to Hammer to buy some potions like I should have done after killing Death. And after doing that, instead of going back to the arena, I decided to make my way towards the Forbidden area to get the best sword in the game, the Clive Soulish. I think that's how you say that. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong. The reason why I want to go after this sword is because it sells for a lot. And I hate saying that because every playthrough of this game that I do, I always use this sword all the time. I freaking love this sword. Unfortunately, I goofed up on the way to get the sword though. Oh yikes. Let's just drink a potion. It doesn't hurt to... We're definitely gonna get hit here. It's not too big of a loss. Oh my god, back to back. Oh. We're only taking 1 damage. I almost hit that fish, that would have been bad. I just hit the fish. I gotta revert back to my save. I reload the save, I head back, and I get the Clive Soulish, and make my way to the arena and decide to deal with those rooms that I said that were full of BS to get some goodies, nerd out with chat about Castlevania, do some really good character art and design. And then Dinosaur was just like, yeah, just anime. Yeah, honestly, personally, I don't mind the I personally don't mind the anime look, but I could understand why people were like upset about that, because the art style to like Castlevania games with like, you know, like of course this game and then like Symphony of the Night and like I know the box art for Lament of Innocence they just look amazing. Like, oh, I've never played 64, so I have no frame of reference. Yeah, so one thing, so 64, I know a lot of people say, oh, it's the worst Castlevania game or whatever. It's, in my opinion, it's not terrible. It has its problems, but I feel like every Castlevania fan, it should at least try it. They don't have to I shouldn't say, like, you know, go out and, like, finish the game or whatever. You're not a real Castlevania fan if you don't, you know, no. I feel like you should at least try it, because the game is definitely not like a Metroidvania, like with, you know, Symphony of the Night and Aria of Sorrow. It's more of like an adventure game that definitely was like experimenting with like a lot of things. And one of the things that I thought that I've noticed about 64 is that you can actually get vampirism with the characters that you play as in the game, and you actually have to find a cure before like a time limit, and you will die, or you will be turned into a vampire and you get a game over. I thought that was actually pretty interesting. The nerd out session basically got canceled when I ran into a room full of just chaos. Oh, yikes. Oh my god. Oh. Okay, you know what? This sword's not worth it. We could make the money some other way. I saw that. We could make it out. Like, you know what? It's not worth it. Just everything. Yeah, let's just get out of there for now. After dealing with some really chaotic, stress-dealing rooms, we head into the next boss. A giant bat. Oh. Balore. At the beginning of this fight, Balore will move his hands around and swing them around the room and try hitting you. What I did during this fight was just stay near the doors and wait for his hands to hit the ground and run in to use a Valkyrie Soul to deal around 100 damage each. However, when I made it to halfway into this fight, he puts his arms away and starts shooting a laser out of his eye and causes the whole floor to explode, going from one side of the screen to the other. This part of the fight was pretty stressful, and every time that I did get hit from Balore, he dealt around 100 to 150 damage to me. So I had to be really careful, otherwise one mistake could be a game over. I was level 26 during this fight, and my max health was 620 HP, so this meant that I can't really get hit 5 to 7 times, otherwise that's it. However, the doorways are my best friend in this room, and if I had to get HP or MP back, I just stood by the door, switching from Wooden Golem Soul or to Giant Worm Soul back to back. For the second phase of this fight, I basically kept the same strategy. I went out into the open with the Valkyrie Soul at the right time, but with a lot more stress down on my back. I stayed by the doorways and went out and attacked with the Valkyrie Soul when the floor was exploding from my side of the room going to the other. Eventually we kill Balore, and Jade comes into the boss room and reveals that he got his memory back due to us having us expand our dark powers. Not sure if amnesia works like that. He tells us that his real name is Julius Belmont and that he killed Dracula in 1999. After talking with Julius, we get the giant bat soul and make our way to Hammer to have my soul ripped out of my chest. I'm selling the Clive Soulish. Sell that, unfortunately. I never thought I'd be selling it. Oh, my heart, yeah. After going through some trouble and some sadness, I take my depression up to the top floor. I get the high jump soul. I like how every time Soma does the high jump compared to like Alucard in Symphony of the Night, it looks like he's like destroying his back. And grind for a few levels to eventually head up to the throne room to finally meet with Graham. Graham tells us that it's too late and he's gotten Dracula's powers. But however, Graham accuses us of being a thief because we've been taking all of the monster souls in the castle, and we have some of his dark power within us somehow too. Literally gave us a very short and sweet judge, jury, and executioner briefing, and is going to kill us himself. So to start off, I was level 30 for this fight, and Graham begins this fight very similar to how Dracula starts out every fight in the franchise. He shoots fireballs and these weird looking, dark meatball looking things around the room. His next phase is when he goes into the middle of the room and starts making a bunch of dark meatballs around the room float around in a like circular pattern. What I did was I just used the Curly Soul to just run into him from both sides of the room in both of these phases. After doing some serious damage to him, he tells us that he hasn't lost yet. He turns into this disgusting abomination that shoots lasers from above, and he swings his hands to deal crazy damage. I do the same thing, just use the Curly Soul from left to right to beat him with ease. And after killing Graham, Genya comes out of nowhere and tells us that the castle is weak and the portal to home is opening. Soma then commands the portal to open, and we wake up to Mina outside of the castle. Genya tells us that we're safe now and the castle will wait for a new Dracula to arise at some point in the future. However, Soma says that the castle is calling to him for some reason, but Mina tells him that he's just imagining things and the screen cuts to black. And there you go. You can beat Castlevania Aria of Sorrow just using souls, ladies and gentlemen. And now on to the credit. Hold on. Pause. We may have just beat the game and got the normal boring ending, but let's see if we can get the true ending of the game now. I reload the save, and instead of going to Graham, I went down a couple of floors to farm on the Succubus soul and unfortunately died from being reckless. Okay, I died already. That was just pure recklessness. But after 10 minutes of grinding, I eventually get it, and I then went back down to the underground cemetery to farm on the Flame Demon Soul. And out of curiosity, I was just wondering if the Killer Mantle Soul would do wonders on him for some reason, but I don't think Killer Mantle's really gonna work on him. I would imagine he has magic. We could try it though, I doubt it. Yeah, no, that was bad. I hiccuped. Yeah, no. I just gave him 4,500 health from switching his HP to MP apparently. But I get this soul with ease considering it literally took like a minute to get his soul. Oh, look at that! We don't even have to grind, that was just straight up lucky. After getting these 2 souls, I went back to the throne room to face Graham again, and I pretty much do the same thing here to use the curly soul to kill him. However, right before he went into his 3rd phase, I switched all of my souls to where it was the giant bat soul, the flame demon soul, and the succubus soul. In order to access the true ending of the game, you need these souls equipped when fighting Graham. However, I kinda cheated the system a bit. You just technically need to get these 3 souls equipped right before he goes into his 3rd phase. Once he goes into his 3rd phase with these souls equipped, his dialogue's a little bit different. He tells you that he doesn't believe that we have those powers, and he tells us that he's Dracula and we're not the one. I then switch my souls to go back to how I originally was going to fight Graham, which is basically use the curly on him again. And then I killed him, but there's a different result this time. No, this can't be! Does that mean that I'm not Dracula? What's happening? Whoa, something has flown into me. No, wait, please stop. No! Finally, I clearly understand everything. I am Dracula. Yep, we are indeed Dracula. God, I remember when I saw this for the first time when I was 15, my mind was freaking blown. Anyway, Genya comes out of hiding and explains that Soma's soul and Dracula's powers are the one and the same. However, there is an evil spirit trying to take over Soma, and it's slowly been eating at him ever since he's technically gotten inside the castle. Genya is able to slow the process down with his powers and tell Soma that we need to go to the Chaos Realm in order to destroy the entity that lurks there in order to be ourselves again. Okay, rant time. Don't take this rant seriously because I just wanted to include this in here because it's just for fun really. Remember how I said that I hate Genya's name earlier? Well, I'm pretty sure that some of you who've already seen or played this game know this is Alucard. Why do I hate the name Genya Arikado? The reason is because Arikado sounds like Alucard. I actually learned that this is supposed to be a pun, that this is supposed to be like what Alucard's name is supposed to sound like through Japanese pronunciation. But you have to think here for a second. Alucard decided to change his own name in this time period for some reason, probably trying to hide the fact that he's the Count's own son and somehow related to the almost annihilation of Earth in 1999. So why on earth would you change your name to something that would literally sound something similar to your actual name? This honestly reminds me of that one cutscene from Dead Rising 4 where Frank West changes his name to Hank East.
Frank West? Am I under arrest? Possibly.
Now, I know you really can't compare these two video game characters together, I know, but that's what bothers me about this, is that I can technically can for this small, unimportant detail. Frank West is just some journalist trying to get his next big scoop while doing questionable things sometimes. However, Alucard is a 600-year-old badass vampire that's been around humans to know what they are like, kills his own father to stop the destruction of humanity, forms a pact with the Belmonts, kills a succubus that imitates his own mother, creates a spear for Eric to assist the Morris family to take Dracula down during the 1800s, save Richter Belmont from being possessed by Shaft, but can't think of a different alias to cover who he is? Why do you think I've only referred to him as only Genya in this whole video for the most part? It's because it does a better job of hiding his identity more. Like, imagine a person who's played a bunch of Castlevania titles, and this is their first time playing Aria of Sorrow. That person might figure out that Genya is Alucard at the beginning of the game right there, just because of them giving a little bit too much information. I feel like if there were to be more of a shock value that this was going to be Alucard, I think they should have just named this character only Genya. Just don't leave the Arikado in there. Whew, alright, the rant's over. One last thing that I can't stop to think about to this day is the fact that Soma is the reincarnation of Dracula, right? Am I the only one that finds it disturbing that Soma is meeting his son from his past life right in front of his eyes right now? Isn't that kind of just strange? Anyway, I get the Black Panther soul and decide to farm for XP and get the Red Minotaur soul in the process, and go to Hammer to stock up on potions, check up on Mina for the last time before we go into the Chaos Realm. And on our way into the Chaos Realm, we run into Julius. And he knows our little secret and plans to kill me on the spot. I was level 45 in this fight, and Julius is one of the hardest bosses in this game. He will use the good old vampire killer on me and jump around the room and do a kick along with some classic items that the Belmonts use in the games like axes and crosses and etc. I just ended up using the Curly Soul for the most part in this fight, and some of the Legion Soul on Julius as well. I would have used the Valkyrie Soul on him, but it wouldn't really do much considering that it does holy damage, and Belmonts are resistant to holy damage, which is no surprise. Halfway into the fight, Julius is starting to use the Grand Cross on us and is starting to suck us in like a vacuum. I quickly changed the Curly Soul with the Black Panther Soul out to avoid taking constant damage from that because the Grand Cross hurts. After using the Grand Cross, he starts to attack with more equipment like Holy Water and really starts to utilize basically everything he's got. I just kept using the Legion and Curly on him until he succumbs to his injuries. After beating him, Julius asks why we don't finish him off, but Soma tells him that he doesn't want to kill him and he asks him for a favor. Soma basically tells him that if he comes out of the Chaos Realm not himself, but as the reincarnation of evil, he wants Julius to kill him for good, and Julius agrees. After talking with Julius, I head back to Hammer to buy potions and grind at the top floor for a bit until I hit level 50 right before we go into the Chaos Realm. I'm not gonna lie, I just passed by all of the enemies in all these rooms, making it all the way to the last save, and pretty much ready to take on Chaos right then and there. I head into the room where Chaos lies in, and right before going in, Mina and everybody else somehow contacts me, probably through telepathy or whatever, and they all root for me and that I'm going to beat the evil that's growing inside me, and after some reassuring talk with everybody and from my friends, I jump in and we encounter a problem. Alright, this is what I'm talking about. So, as you probably just saw there, my souls just got all just taken away from me. Yep, all the souls that I took a lot of hard work to get have been taken away from me, and I died and let my friends down not even 3 minutes into the fight. However, since I died here, we get a cutscene where evil Soma is consumed by, obviously, by his past self, and Julius comes in and tells us that he has a promise to make with us. I just love that they made Soma drop the wine glass just like how Dracula would have done the same for previous titles. God, I love the attention to detail. Anyway, I reload my save, and I'm gonna have to admit this, but this fight is actually impossible to beat with using only Soul, sadly. There's literally no way. There's no extra items I can simply use, or there's really nothing else, sadly. So I ended up having to use my fist to take down one of the statues that took my souls. I took the blue statue first, which meant that I could use a transformation soul like the Curly, and take down the other statues, which is what I ended up doing. Just a side note here, as soon as I got rid of the blue statue, I immediately just stopped using my fist. I try to keep this as least physical as possible. After getting my souls back, I'm teleported to another room where there's this worm-like thing going around the room and this black orb that's in the middle of the room. However, there's this weird eyeball thing on the four corners of the room, and if you take them out, you can do a lot more damage to the black orb. The first thing that I did was use the curly soul and run into the bottom left and right corners of the room and got rid of the two eyeballs down there. I was going to get rid of the other two eyeballs at the top part of the screen, but these really annoying orbs that come into contact with you will eat up your health by a lot, so I stayed in the middle of the room and spammed the curly soul by a bunch. I think it's funny how much I've relied on the curly soul for this run. Also, it's one of my favorite souls in the game, so I really hope you can't blame me. After spamming the curly soul a lot, I beat Chaos and we see Soma floating in a white void, and we hear all of our friends' voices passing on some encouragement and thankful goodbyes. That's until Mina tells us to wake up, and we wake up at the shrine, and Mina is thankful that we are safe, and Soma is thankful that everybody gave encouragement for him in the final fight. And he tells Mina that Dracula's powers is sleeping inside him and basically has changed him, and both of them look up and see that the eclipse is finally over. So, are you able to beat this game with using only souls? Yes and no. You can get the normal ending and technically the bad ending with only using the souls, but not the true ending, sadly. I had a lot of fun with this challenge run. I think I would recommend it to people who really enjoy Aria of Sorrow, to be honest. Not sure what kind of game I want to do next. I know I said earlier about the Metro games at one point. I thought about doing another challenge run of Starbound, or something with Terraria, or even Minecraft, honestly. Or maybe even Dawn of Sorrow. I mean, I love both Aria and Dawn of Sorrow, like why not? I just need some time to think what I would want to do with one of these games. If you made it this far in the video, I really want to say thank you. Really. Making these kinds of videos take forever, considering that I'm the only one making them. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. It's pretty stressful animating this character on the screen, not gonna lie, but I think it was very worth it. I want to do more stuff with this character on screen. But other than that, I'll see you in the next one.